The stars looked different through the viewing window of the frontier dawn. Doyen pressed his hand against the cold glass and watched the massive space station grow larger as their ship approached. He had seen many stations during his 3 years working for Earth's diplomatic service, but none like this one. The Silthian Royal Station was enormous, built with metal that seemed to shine with its own light. Towers stretched in every direction, and ships of all sizes moved around it like insects around a lamp. "First time seeing Silthian architecture?" Captain Hyun stood beside him, arms crossed. The captain was a tall woman with short gray hair and tired eyes. She had been doing this job for 15 years. "Yes, sir," Doyen replied. "It's bigger than I expected." Everything about the Silthians is bigger than expected. Their technology, their empire, their pride. Hyun sighed. "Remember your training. Don't touch anyone. Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't make sudden movements. They think we're barely civilized." Doyun nodded. He understood. Humans were new to the Galactic Coalition. Only 40 years since first contact. Most alien species had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. To them, humans were children playing with toys they didn't understand. The communication system beeped. A voice spoke in perfect English, though with a strange echo. "Earth Vessel Frontier Dawn, you are cleared for Docking Bay 7. Proceed slowly. Any deviation will result in immediate destruction." "Friendly," Doyen muttered. "That's diplomacy," Hyun said. "Now get to your station. The ceremony starts in 1 hour." Doyen walked through the narrow corridors of the ship. The Frontier Dawn was small compared to alien vessels, built with Earth materials and Earth hands. It felt like home. He reached the security station and checked his equipment. Stunner on his belt, communicator in his ear, medical kit on his back. His job was simple: protect the diplomats, stay quiet, and don't cause problems. The docking went smoothly. The ship shuddered as magnetic locks engaged. Through the cameras, Doyen watched as Silthian guards took positions outside their airlock. They were tall, nearly 7 feet, with blue-gray skin and 3 eyes arranged in a triangle on their faces. They wore armor that looked like liquid metal. The diplomats filed out first, led by Ambassador Kwan, a nervous man who sweated too much. Doyun followed at a distance with 3 other security officers. The Silthian station was cold. Their breath came out in small clouds. The walls were smooth and dark, covered with lights that pulsed in patterns Doyen couldn't understand. They were led to a massive hall with a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadow. At the far end sat Queen Valora on a throne made of some kind of crystal. She was even taller than her guards, with skin that was almost white. Her 3 eyes were completely black, like pools of ink. Next to her sat a younger Silthian, smaller and with darker skin. Princess Nari, Doyun remembered from his briefing. The ceremony was boring. Ambassador Kwan read from a prepared speech about friendship and cooperation. Queen Valora responded in her own language, which was translated by computers. Doyen stood at attention and tried not to yawn. His feet hurt. He had been standing for 45 minutes. Then the explosion started. The first blast came from above. Doyen looked up in time to see a piece of the ceiling fall toward the crowd. People screamed. He grabbed Ambassador Kwan and pulled him aside as metal crashed where he had been standing. More explosions followed, each one sending debris flying through the hall. "Rebels!" someone shouted in Silthian. The guards raised their weapons and formed a protective circle around the queen. But Doyen noticed something. Princess Nari wasn't with them. She had been standing near a viewing window on the side of the hall, and now that entire section was damaged. He could see her through the smoke, lying on the ground. The Silthian guards saw her too. But they didn't move. They stood in formation, protecting the queen, while their princess lay injured. Doyen realized they were waiting. Calculating. deciding if the risk was acceptable. Humans didn't calculate like that. Doyen ran. He heard Captain Hyun shout his name, but he didn't stop. He jumped over fallen beams and dodged small fires. When he reached the damaged section, he saw the problem immediately. The explosion had cracked the viewing window. Air was leaking out into space. In minutes, maybe seconds, the entire section would decompress explosively. Anyone inside would be sucked out into the void. Princess Nari was unconscious, her breathing shallow. Blood leaked from a cut on her head, floating in strange patterns in the low gravity. The crack in the window was getting bigger. Doyen could hear it groaning under the pressure. He looked around desperately. His stunner was useless. His medical kit couldn't fix a broken window. Then he saw a panel on the wall marked with Scythian symbols. He couldn't read them, but he recognized the shape. It was an emergency control panel. Every station had them. His communicator crackled. "Doyen, get back here! That section is going to decompress." "I know," he said. He pulled off his jacket and wrapped it around his fist. Then he punched through the panel's protective cover. Inside were controls he didn't understand and wires he couldn't identify. But he knew basic engineering. Every system had a manual override. The crack in the window suddenly spread across the entire surface. The sound was like thunder. Doyen grabbed Princess Nari and held her tight as the window exploded outward. Air rushed past them with terrible force. He felt himself being pulled toward space, toward death. But his other hand had found a pipe on the wall. He held on with all his strength, his muscles screaming. The princess was heavy, heavier than a human. His fingers slipped on the metal. He was going to lose his grip. He was going to die here, millions of miles from Earth, holding a princess from a species that thought humans were stupid. But he didn't let go. Emergency doors slammed shut, cutting off the damaged section from the rest of the hall. The air stopped rushing out. Doyen and Nari fell to the floor in a heap. He couldn't breathe. His lungs burned. The air was too thin. His vision started to go dark. Then he heard the hiss of air filling the room. Someone had activated the emergency systems. He sucked in breath after breath, each one painful but wonderful. Princess Nari stirred in his arms. Her 3 eyes opened slowly. She looked at him with confusion. "You," she said in English, "you saved me." "It's my job," Doyen managed to say. "No," she said. "Your job was to protect your ambassador. You broke protocol. You risked your life. Why?" Doyen didn't know how to explain it. How did you tell someone that humans didn't need a reason to help people in danger? That it was just something they did? "Because you needed help," he said simply. The door opened. Scythian guards rushed in, followed by Captain Hyun and the medical team. They pulled Doyen away from the princess. Someone put handcuffs on his wrists. He was too tired to resist. "What are you doing?" he asked. Captain Hyun looked at him with a mixture of pride and sorrow. "You touched royalty without permission. In Scythian law, that's a capital crime. But I saved her life." "I know," Hyun said. "That's the only reason you're not dead already." They dragged him away. As he left, Doyen saw Queen Valora standing over her daughter. The queen's 3 eyes were fixed on him. He couldn't read her expression, but he felt certain of one thing: he was in serious trouble. The cell was nicer than Doyen expected. It had a bed, a bathroom, and a window that showed the stars. But it was still a cell. The door was locked from the outside, and guards stood watch every hour. He had been here for 3 days. 3 days with nothing to do but think about his mistake. Not the saving Princess Nari part. He would do that again. The mistake was thinking it wouldn't matter. The door opened without warning. A Scythian woman entered. Shorter than the guards, but still taller than Doyen. She had green markings on her skin that looked like tattoos. Her 3 eyes studied him carefully. "I am Jisoo," she said. "I am a healer. I need to check your injuries." I'm fine, Doyen said. You held onto a pipe while hurricane-force wind tried to pull you into space. Your shoulder is damaged. Your ribs are bruised. You are not fine. She opened a medical case and pulled out instruments that glowed with soft light. Sit. Doyen sat. He had learned not to argue with medical professionals, human or alien. Jisoo ran a scanner over his body. The device hummed and beeped. She made small sounds of disapproval. You are stronger than you look, she said. Most humans would have lost their grip. Most humans would have been smart enough not to try. Jisoo smiled. At least, Doyen thought it was a smile. Her mouth moved differently than a human's. Intelligence and wisdom are not the same thing. Sometimes the foolish act is the right act. She gave him something to drink. It tasted like metal and flowers. This will help with the pain. Now rest. Your trial begins tomorrow. Trial? What trial? The Queen must decide what to do with you. You committed a crime, but you also saved the princess. Silthian law is complicated. Jisoo paused at the door. For what it is worth, I think what you did was brave. After she left, Doyen tried to sleep but couldn't. A trial meant he might die. He thought about his sister, Yuna. She worked at Earth's embassy on the Silthian homeworld. She was probably trying to help him right now, using her knowledge of alien languages and laws. But even Yuna couldn't change Silthian culture. The next morning, guards took him to a different room. This one was huge, with walls covered in screens showing different parts of the station. Queen Valora sat on her throne, but now there were other Silthians arranged in a semicircle around her, a council of some kind. Captain Hyun stood to one side with Ambassador Kwan. They both looked exhausted. On the other side stood Princess Nari. She wore a dress made of fabric that changed colors when she moved. A bandage covered the cut on her head. Human Doyen, Queen Valora said. Her voice was cold and sharp. You are here to answer for your crime. You touched royal blood without permission. You entered a restricted area without authorization. You caused a diplomatic incident. What do you say? Doyen thought carefully before speaking. I say that I did my job. My job is to protect people in danger. The princess was in danger. I protected her. Your job is to protect Earth's diplomats, not our royalty. My job is to protect people. There's no difference. A murmur went through the council. Queen Valora's 3 eyes narrowed. You dare to claim our princess is no different than your ambassador? That's not what I meant. I mean that danger is danger. When someone needs help, you help them. You don't stop to think about their status or whether it's allowed. You just act. Reckless, one of the council members said. Typical human behavior. Acting without thought. We call it instinct, Doyen replied. And my instinct saved Princess Nari's life. Queen Valora stood. She was terrifying when she rose to her full height, nearly 8 feet tall. You are correct. You saved my daughter's life. For this I am bound by the law of life debt. You cannot be executed. Captain Hyun let out a breath of relief, but the Queen wasn't finished. However, the debt must be repaid. Until it is, you are property of the Silthian crown. You will remain here, in the palace, under our supervision. You will work for us, serve us, and obey us. Is this clear? Wait. Ambassador Kwan stepped forward. Your Majesty, with respect, this man is a citizen of Earth. He has rights under Galactic Coalition law. The Coalition does not supersede our internal laws. The human committed a crime on Silthian territory. He will be punished according to our customs. The Queen looked at Captain Hyun. You may return to your ship. We will keep this human until we decide his debt is paid. How long will that take? Hyun demanded. As long as necessary, perhaps years, perhaps decades. Life debt is not a simple matter. Doyen felt his heart sink. Decades. He would be an old man before he saw Earth again. Maybe he would die here, among aliens who thought he was primitive and reckless. "I want to speak with him," Princess Nari said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. Alone. "Nari, that is not appropriate," the Queen said. "He saved my life. I have the right to thank him properly. Or do we not follow our own customs anymore?" The Queen's expression was unreadable. Finally, she nodded. 10 minutes. Guards will remain outside." They took Doyun to a small room with comfortable chairs and a table with drinks. Princess Nari dismissed the guards and waited until the door closed. Then she turned to him. "I am sorry," she said. "For what?" "For this. For all of this. You should not be punished for saving me. It's not your fault. It is my mother's fault. She is afraid." Nari poured 2 glasses of something that looked like blue wine. "The law of life debt is ancient. Once it was a simple thing, but over centuries it became complicated, political. My mother cannot simply let you go even though she wants to." "Why not?" "Because life debt is considered infinite. How do you repay someone for saving a life? You cannot. So the debt never ends. If she releases you, other members of the court will say she is weak. That she does not honor tradition. She cannot afford to look weak." Doyun took a drink. It tasted like honey and electricity. "So I'm stuck here because of politics?" "Yes." Nari sat down across from him. "But maybe it does not have to be terrible. The palace is large. You will have a room, food, entertainment. You will not be mistreated." "I'll be a prisoner." "Yes." They sat in silence for a moment. Finally, Nari spoke again. "Why did you do it? My guards were there. They could have saved me. They didn't move. Because they were calculating the risk, determining the safest course of action. That is how we think. We analyze, we plan, we act with precision." "I don't think like that," Doyun said. "When I saw you lying there, when I saw that window cracking, I didn't calculate anything. I just knew I had to help." "That is fascinating." Nari leaned forward. "We study humans, you know. We try to understand how your species survived long enough to reach the stars. You are reckless, emotional, unpredictable. By all logic, you should have destroyed yourselves. Maybe our emotions are why we survived. Maybe caring about each other, even strangers, is a strength, not a weakness." Nari's 3 eyes widened slightly. "I never thought about it that way." The door opened. A guard announced that their time was up. As Doyun stood to leave, Nari touched his arm gently. "I will visit you again," she said, "if you will allow it. I want to learn more about humans, about how you think." "I'd like that," Doyun said honestly. They took him to his new room. It was bigger than the cell, with real furniture and decorations, but it was still locked from the outside. Through the window, he could see the Silthian homeworld below, a planet of purple oceans and silver cities. Beautiful and completely foreign. His communicator beeped. He had been allowed to keep it for emergencies. The message was from his sister. "Doyun, I heard what happened. I'm working on it. I'm reading every law, every precedent, every loophole I can find. Don't give up. We'll get you home. I promise. Love, Yuna." Doyun lay down on the bed and stared at the ceiling. He didn't know how long he would be here. He didn't know if he would ever see Earth again. But he knew one thing for certain. He would do it all again in a heartbeat. And maybe, just maybe, he could find a way out of this. Not through violence or escape, but through understanding. If he could make the Silthians see humans differently, maybe he could change their minds about him. It was a small hope, but it was something. Outside his window, the stars shone bright and cold. Somewhere among them was Earth, his home, his family, his life. It seemed very far away now, but he was still alive. And while he was alive, there was always a chance. 3 months passed in the Silthian palace. Doyen learned the routine quickly. Wake at dawn when the purple sun rose over the Silver City. Breakfast in his room, then work, whatever task they assigned him that day. Sometimes it was simple labor, moving supplies or cleaning equipment. Sometimes it was technical work, fixing broken devices with his engineering knowledge. The Silthians were surprised to find that humans understood technology, even if theirs was less advanced. He saw Princess Nari often. She visited him 3 or 4 times a week, always bringing questions. How did humans think? Why did they act on emotion? What did they believe about life and death? At first, the guards watched these visits carefully. But after a while, they relaxed. Nari was royalty. She could do what she wanted. Today, she brought food from the palace kitchen, strange fruits that tasted like thunder and meat that was sweet instead of savory. They sat in the garden section of his quarters, a small area with plants from dozens of worlds. "I have been reading human philosophy," Nari said. "There is a concept I do not understand. You call it hope. Hope is believing things can get better, even when they look bad. But that is illogical. Things get better or they do not. Believing changes nothing. It changes how you act," Doyen explained. "If you have hope, you keep trying. If you give up, you definitely fail." Nari thought about this while eating a piece of fruit. We do not have a word for hope in our language. The closest translation is calculated optimism. The belief that probable outcomes favor success. That's not the same thing at all. I know. That is why I find it fascinating. She looked at him with her 3 eyes, and Doyen noticed they were different colors today. Green instead of black. He had learned that Silthian eyes changed color with their emotions. Green meant curiosity. "Tell me more about Earth. About your home." So he told her. About his city, built on the coast where the ocean met the land. About his family, his sister Yuna, who loved languages, and his parents who grew vegetables in their garden. About rain and seasons, and the way humans celebrated when their planet completed another trip around their sun. "It sounds chaotic," Nari said. "It is, but it's beautiful chaos. I would like to see it someday." "Maybe you will." A guard interrupted them. "Princess, Elder Corin requests your presence in the council chamber." Nari stood reluctantly. "I must go, but I will return tomorrow." After she left, Doyen went back to his work. Today's assignment was in the palace maintenance section. The head engineer, a Silthian named Taryn, didn't like humans. He made that clear every day. "You are slow," Taryn said as Doyen worked on a power relay. "A Silthian child could do this faster." "A Silthian child probably could," Doyen agreed. "But you assigned me to do it, so here I am." Taryn made a disgusted sound and walked away. The other workers, all Silthians, ignored Doyen as usual. He was used to it. Most of the palace staff saw him as somewhere between a pet and a prisoner. But one worker was different. Minho appeared one day, claiming to be a new maintenance assistant. He had the same blue-gray skin as the Silthians, but something about him seemed off. It took Doyen 2 weeks to realize the truth. Minho was human. They were in a storage room, supposedly looking for spare parts, when Minho revealed himself. He pressed a device that created a bubble of static around them, blocking listening devices. "Don't react," Minho said, and his voice was suddenly human, speaking Korean. "My name is Minho. I'm a trader who works in Silthian space. Your sister Yuna hired me to make contact." "How are you disguised?" "Holographic projector. Very expensive. Very illegal." Minho grinned. "Yuna is working hard to find a legal way to free you. But Silthian law is complicated. She wanted you to know that Earth hasn't forgotten you. There are protests back home. People calling for your release." "That's good to hear," Doyen said. "But I don't think the Queen cares about Earth protests." "Probably not. But it's pressure. and pressure creates cracks. Minho handed him a small device. Hide this. It's a secure communicator. You can contact Yuna directly, but only use it in emergencies. If they catch you with it, things will get worse. Doyen pocketed the device quickly. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'm being paid very well for this. Minho checked his watch. I have to go. The hologram only lasts 6 hours, but I'll be back next month with updates. He left, and Doyen went back to work, his mind racing. Yuna was trying to help. Earth remembered him. He wasn't alone. That evening, Jisoo came to his room for a routine medical check. She had become something close to a friend over the months. She didn't treat him like a prisoner or a curiosity, just a person. You seem happier today, she observed. Just a good day, Doyun said. She ran her scanner over him. You are healing well. The injuries from the rescue are almost gone, but you are losing weight. You do not eat enough. The food here is different, hard to get used to. I will speak to the kitchen. They can prepare human-style meals. She put away her equipment. May I ask you something personal? Sure. What do you think of Princess Nari? Doyen was careful with his answer. She's kind, curious. She treats me like a person, not property. She cares about you, more than she should. Jisoo's eyes were serious. This is dangerous, Doyen, for both of you. The court already whispers about her visits. If anyone believes there is something improper, it could cause problems. We're just talking, learning about each other's cultures. I know, but others may not see it that way. Be careful. After Jisoo left, Doyen thought about her warning. He had noticed the way Nari looked at him lately, the way she smiled when he made a joke or explained a human concept. He hadn't let himself think about what it meant. She was a princess. He was a prisoner. Nothing could happen between them, but he couldn't deny that he enjoyed her company more than anyone else's here. A week later, everything changed. Elder Korin, the ancient Silthian counselor, visited him personally. The old Silthian moved slowly, leaning on a staff made of crystal. Human Doyen, he said. Walk with me. They went to a balcony overlooking the city. Below, millions of Silthians went about their lives, precise and orderly, everything in its place. You have been watching us, Korin said. Learning. I have been watching you as well. Why? Because you are interesting. You represent something we do not have. Chaos that creates. Disorder that solves problems. We Silthians are very good at what we do, but we are limited by our own nature. What do you mean? We think in straight lines. We calculate, optimize, perfect. But some problems cannot be solved with straight lines. Some problems require curves, randomness, the unexpected. Korin looked at him. The Empire has such a problem now. He explained about the plague, a disease spreading through the outer colonies, killing thousands. Every medical team sent to study it came back defeated. The plague adapted faster than they could create cures. Traditional Silthian medicine was failing. Why are you telling me this? Doyen asked. Because the Queen is considering something unprecedented. She wants to know if you could help, if human thinking might succeed where our logic has failed. I'm not a doctor. No, but you think differently. You see patterns we miss. You take risks we cannot calculate. Korin turned to leave, then paused. She will make you an offer soon. If you succeed, your debt will be reduced. Not eliminated, but reduced. 10 years instead of forever. And if I fail, then you will remain here for the rest of your life, and thousands more will die. Korin tapped his staff on the ground. Think carefully, human. This is your only chance. That night, Doyen couldn't sleep. He stood at his window looking at the stars, thinking about the decision ahead. It was a trap. The Queen expected him to fail, but if he didn't try, people would die. He pulled out the secret communicator and sent a message to Yuna, told her about the plague and the offer. Her response came an hour later. "It's a risk, but you've never been afraid of those. Whatever you decide, I support you. Just stay alive, little brother. Earth needs you to come home." Doyen smiled. Even millions of miles away, Yuna knew exactly what to say. The next day, Princess Nari visited him with urgent news in her expression. "My mother wants to see you," she said. "She is going to ask you to help with the plague." "I know. Elder Corrin told me. You cannot agree. It is impossible. Every expert we have has tried and failed. She is setting you up to fail so she can justify keeping you here forever." "Maybe," Doyen said. "But what if I succeed?" "You will not." "You don't know that." Nari grabbed his hands. It was the first time she had touched him so directly. "I do not want you to fail. I do not want you to spend your life here as a prisoner." "Then help me. Give me access to the research. Let me try." "Why? Why risk it?" "Because people are dying, and because doing nothing guarantees I stay here forever anyway. At least this way, I have a chance." Nari looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. "All right, I will help you. But not because I believe you will succeed, because you deserve the chance to try. That's all I ask." The meeting with Queen Valora happened that afternoon. The offer was exactly as Corrin described. Help cure the plague, reduce the debt to 10 years, fail, and remain forever. Doyen looked at the Queen's 3 black eyes and said the only thing he could. "I accept." The research facility was underground, deep beneath the palace. White walls, bright lights, and the smell of chemicals that made Doyen's eyes water. Hundreds of Silthian scientists worked here, studying samples of the plague under strict containment. They looked at him with expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt when he arrived. "This is the human who will save us?" one scientist said to another, not bothering to lower his voice. "We have been working on this for 2 years. What can he possibly do in a few months?" Doyen ignored them. He had a job to do. They gave him an office, a computer terminal, and access to all their research data. The amount of information was overwhelming. Thousands of reports, test results, failed experiments. He spent the first week just reading, trying to understand what he was dealing with. The plague was terrifying. It attacked the respiratory system, spreading through the air like wildfire. But the truly horrifying part was how it adapted. Every time the Silthian scientists developed a treatment, the plague evolved within days to resist it. It was like the disease was learning, thinking, staying one step ahead. Princess Nari visited him every day, bringing food and checking on his progress. She had kept her promise to help, even though she didn't believe he could succeed. Sometimes she sat and read while he worked. Her presence was comforting. "You look tired," she said on the 10th day. "I am tired. This thing is impossible." Doyen rubbed his eyes. "Every approach they've tried makes sense, perfect sense, logical, calculated, precise, and every approach has failed. Perhaps that is the point." "What do you mean?" "You said humans do not think in straight lines. Maybe the answer is not logical. Maybe it requires your chaos." Doyen looked at her. She was right. He had been trying to solve the problem like a Silthian, with precision and calculation. But he wasn't Silthian. He was human. "I need to talk to the head researcher," he said. Dr. Tevin was a tall, elderly Silthian with silver markings on her skin. She had been leading the plague research from the beginning. She listened to Doyen's idea with her arms crossed, her 3 eyes skeptical. "You want to do what?" she asked. "Stop trying to create the perfect cure. Instead, create multiple incomplete cures. Expose the plague to all of them at once." "That makes no sense. Incomplete cures do nothing." "Exactly. They do nothing except force the plague to adapt. But if we hit it with 10 different incomplete cures simultaneously, It has to adapt in 10 different directions at once. That's impossible. It will try, but it will become unstable. And then? Then we hit it with a combination therapy, something that targets all the adaptations at once. The plague won't be able to evolve fast enough to resist everything. Dr. Tevin was quiet for a long moment. That is the most illogical thing I have ever heard. I know. It could also be brilliant. She stood and walked to her computer. But we would need to test it carefully. The risk of making the plague worse is significant. I understand. They started immediately. Doyen worked with a team of scientists who were willing to try his crazy human idea. Many refused, saying it was too dangerous and reckless. But some were desperate enough to consider anything. Jisoo joined the team as their medical expert. If this works, she said, it will change how we think about medicine. If it fails, we are all probably going to be reassigned to cleaning duties in the outer colonies. Sounds fair, Doyen said. The first tests were in the laboratory using samples of the plague in sealed containers. They created 6 different incomplete cures and exposed the plague to all of them. For 3 days, nothing happened. Then, on the 4th day, the plague samples began to break down. The disease was trying to adapt to 6 different threats, and it was destroying itself in the process. It's working, Dr. Tevin whispered. By the ancestors, it's actually working. But there was a problem. The breakdown was slow, too slow. People were dying every day in the colonies. They needed something faster. Doyen worked for 3 days straight without sleeping, adjusting the formula, increasing the dosages, trying different combinations. Princess Nari found him asleep at his desk on the 4th morning. She woke him gently. You need to rest, she said. I need to finish this. You cannot finish anything if you collapse. She touched his face, her hand cool and gentle. Please, Doyun, rest for a few hours. I will watch over you. He was too tired to argue. He lay down on the office couch and Nari sat beside him, her hand holding his. He fell asleep to the sound of her humming a Silthian lullaby. When he woke, 6 hours had passed. Nari was still there, reading a report on his computer. You were right, she said. This could work. I read your notes. It is chaotic and unpredictable, but that is exactly what we need. They went back to the laboratory. The team had refined the combination therapy while he slept. Now it was time for the real test. They had volunteers from the infected colonies, people who were dying and had nothing to lose. 17 patients agreed to try the experimental treatment. Doyen watched through the observation window as they administered the cure. The patients lay in medical beds, monitored by dozens of instruments. For the first hour, nothing changed. Then slowly, their vital signs began to improve. Oxygen levels rose. The infection markers in their blood decreased. By the end of the day, 12 of the 17 patients were breathing easier. Their fevers had broken. They were going to live. We did it, Jisoo said, her voice filled with wonder. We actually did it. But 5 patients showed no improvement. Their conditions worsened. 2 died that night. Doyen watched it happen, helpless. His cure had saved 12, but killed 2 and done nothing for 3 others. This is unacceptable, one of the senior scientists said. A cure that only works 70% of the time is not a cure. It's better than 0%, Doyun argued. We can improve it. Figure out why it doesn't work for everyone. But we have something that works for most people. That's progress. They argued for hours. Finally, Dr. Tevin made the decision. They would continue testing, refining the cure, and begin treating patients in the infected colonies. It wasn't perfect, but it was hope. Over the next 3 weeks, thousands received the treatment. The success rate improved to 85%. The plague's spread slowed, then stopped. The colonies that had been dying were saved. The empire celebrated. News of the cure spread across the galaxy. The human who had saved Princess Nari had now saved thousands more. Doyun received messages of thanks from people he would never meet, from worlds he would never see. Queen Valora summoned him to the throne room. He stood before her, exhausted but proud. He had done the impossible. Now she would honor her promise. "Human Doyun," the queen said formally, "you have succeeded where our best minds failed. The Empire is grateful." "Thank you, Your Majesty. I believe this means my debt is reduced. 10 years instead of infinity." "About that." The Queen's expression was cold. "The Council and I have discussed this matter at length. Your success proves something important. It proves that human thinking has value, that your kind can solve problems we cannot." "Yes," Doyun said slowly, not liking where this was going. "Which is exactly why we cannot let you leave. You are too valuable. If one human can accomplish so much, imagine what humanity as a whole could do. We cannot risk letting you return to Earth, where you might share what you have learned about us, about our weaknesses." "But you promised." "I promised to reduce your debt. I did not promise to free you. The Council has decided that you will remain here indefinitely. Not as a prisoner, but as an advisor. You will have a comfortable life, status, resources, but you will never leave this world." Doyun felt cold. He had been tricked, used. The Queen never intended to let him go. This was always the plan. "I saved your daughter. I saved your people." "Yes, and for that, you will live. You will be treated well, but you will stay. This is not negotiable." "You're afraid," Doyun said. "That's what this is really about. You're afraid of what humans represent." "Fear is a form of wisdom," the Queen replied. "We have ruled for 10,000 years because we do not take unnecessary risks. Releasing you would be a risk. Therefore, you stay." Guards moved forward to escort him out, but before they could reach him, Princess Nari stepped into the throne room. "Mother, this is wrong." "Nari, return to your quarters. This does not concern you." "It does concern me. He saved my life. The debt is mine as much as yours, and I say it is paid. Let him go." "You have no authority to make that decision." "Then give me authority, or admit that our laws mean nothing. That life debt is just a way to keep people enslaved." The Queen stood, her face dark with anger. "You will not speak to me this way. I will speak truth, always." Nari looked at Doyun, her eyes filled with emotion. "He taught me that. He taught me that sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules, that caring about others is more important than following tradition." "Enough," the Queen said. "Guards, take them both away. My daughter to her quarters, the human to his room. They are not to have contact again." As the guards pulled them apart, Nari reached for Doyun's hand. Their fingers touched for just a moment. "I will fix this," she promised. "I swear it." Then they were separated. Doyun was led back to his room, the door locked behind him. He had saved thousands of lives. He had done everything asked of him, and he was still a prisoner. He pulled out the secret communicator and called his sister. When Yuna's face appeared on the screen, she looked worried. "I heard what happened," she said. "The Queen's announcement was public. Earth is furious. There are calls for military action. That would be suicide. The Silthian Empire is too powerful." "I know, but people are angry. You're a hero. They want you home." Yuna paused. "I'm still looking for a legal solution. There has to be something." "Keep looking. I'm not giving up." After the call ended, Doyun sat in the dark, thinking. He had one last option. It was dangerous and probably stupid, but it was the only thing he could think of. He needed to escape, not by force but by making the Queen see that keeping him was more dangerous than letting him go. The question was how. For 2 weeks, Doyen saw no one except the guards who brought his food. No visitors, no messages, no contact with the outside world. They had even taken his computer terminal. He was truly isolated now. But isolation gave him time to think and plan. He knew Silthian law better than most humans. He had spent months studying it, learning every detail. There were loopholes in every legal system, even one as old as the Silthians. He just needed to find the right one. On the 15th day, Minho appeared during the delivery of Doyun's evening meal. The holographic disguise made him look like a regular Silthian servant, but his voice was human when he created the privacy bubble. "Your sister sent me. She says Earth is preparing something big. A fleet is coming." "What? That's insane. They'll start a war." "They're not coming to fight. They're coming to extract you. Admiral Soman has authorization for a rescue mission. No weapons fired unless attacked first. They arrive in 3 days. Doyen's mind raced. A fleet would force the Queen's hand. She would either have to let him go or start a conflict that could destroy Earth. This is a disaster. It's pressure. Yuna thinks if the Queen sees that keeping you causes more problems than releasing you, she might negotiate. Minho handed him a small device. New communicator, more secure. Yuna wants to talk to you tonight. After Minho left, Doyen paced his room. A fleet. Earth was risking everything for one person. For him. It was touching and terrifying at the same time. That night he called Yuna. "You have to stop the fleet," he said immediately. "We can't. It's already in motion. The public demanded action. The government had no choice." Yuna looked tired. She had been working non-stop for months. "But maybe we can use it. The Queen doesn't want a conflict. If we time things right, if we give her a way out that saves face, she might take it." "What do you mean?" "I found something in Silthian law. It's old, barely used anymore, but it's still valid. Trial by achievement. If you can prove your value to the Empire in front of the full council, tradition says they must reconsider your status." "I already proved my value. I cured the plague." "No. You proved you could be useful as a tool. You need to prove something bigger. That holding you is actually harming the Empire, not helping it." Yuna leaned forward. "You need to make your trial public. Broadcast it across the galaxy. Put pressure on the Queen from every direction. Show everyone what they're doing." It was risky. If he failed, things would get worse. But doing nothing guaranteed he stayed here forever. "How do I request a trial?" "You don't. Someone with status has to request it for you." Yuna smiled sadly. "You need Princess Nari." But Nari was locked in her quarters, forbidden from seeing him. Doyen stared at the walls of his room, thinking. Then he noticed something. The ventilation grate near the ceiling. It was large enough for a person to fit through. Maybe. He had nothing to lose. That night he used a fork from his dinner to unscrew the grate. The ventilation shaft was tight and dark, but he managed to crawl through it. He had studied the palace layout during his months here. Nari's quarters were 3 levels up and 2 sections over. It took him an hour of crawling through ducts and praying he didn't get lost. His clothes were filthy and his hands were bleeding by the time he found the right grate. Below him he could see Nari's room. She was sitting by the window looking at the stars. She looked sad and alone. "Nari," he whispered. She jumped, looking around in shock. "Doyen? Where are you?" "Up here, in the vent. Can you help me down?" She pulled a chair under the grate and helped him climb down. As soon as his feet touched the floor, she hugged him tight. "You should not be here. If they find you, they will put you in a real prison. I needed to see you. I need your help." He explained Yuna's plan. Trial by achievement. A public challenge to the Queen's decision. Nari listened carefully, her 3 eyes shifting from green to blue. Blue meant worry. "It is dangerous," she said, "for both of us. If we fail, my mother will be even more determined to keep you. If we do nothing, Earth's fleet arrives in 3 days. Things will get worse no matter what. Nari walked to her desk and pulled out a small device. I have been planning something too. I was going to help you escape, smuggle you onto a transport ship during the Stellar Festival tomorrow, but your plan might be better. Less chance of violence. Will you request the trial for me? Yes. But there is something you should know. If I do this, I am going against my mother publicly. There will be consequences for me. I might lose my status, my position, everything. Then don't do it. I can't ask you to sacrifice that much. You are not asking. I am choosing. She touched his face gently. You changed how I see the world, Doyon. You taught me that rules are not more important than people. That tradition is not more important than justice. I love my mother, but she is wrong about this. Nari, I know. You feel it too. I see it in your eyes when you look at me. She smiled. Scythian and human. It should not work. But somehow it does. They spent an hour planning the details. Then Doyon had to return through the vents before the morning guards arrived. Before he left, Nari kissed him. Her lips were cool and soft, nothing like a human's, but perfect in their own way. For luck, she said. The next morning, Princess Nari made a formal request to the council for Doyon's trial by achievement. The council couldn't refuse without violating ancient law. The trial was scheduled for that afternoon. The throne room was packed. Every council member was present, along with representatives from dozens of different departments, and, most importantly, cameras. The trial would be broadcast live across the Empire and to every planet in the Galactic Coalition. Earth's approaching fleet made sure everyone was watching. Doyon stood in the center of the room, with Princess Nari beside him. Queen Valora sat on her throne, her face unreadable. Human Doyon, Elder Corrin spoke as the presiding judge. You have requested trial by achievement. You must prove your value to the Empire is greater than the risk of releasing you. Proceed. Doyon took a deep breath. Everything depended on the next few minutes. I saved Princess Nari's life, he began. I cured a plague that was killing thousands. But that's not why you should release me. You should release me because keeping me proves the Scythian Empire is afraid. Murmurs went through the crowd. Queen Valora's eyes narrowed dangerously. The Empire has ruled for 10,000 years, Doyon continued. You've done it through strength, intelligence, and perfect calculation. But now, one human has shown that calculation isn't enough, that sometimes you need chaos, randomness, emotion. And that terrifies you. We are not afraid, the Queen said coldly. Then why keep me? If I'm just a useful tool, hire me, pay me, make me a consultant. But you won't do that because then I could leave. I could teach other humans what I've learned. I could help humanity grow stronger. And you're afraid of what that means. Careful, human, Commander Terran warned. You are insulting the Empire. I'm telling the truth. The Scythian Empire is afraid of change, afraid of the unpredictable. But the galaxy is changing whether you like it or not. Humanity is part of the coalition now. We're not going away. You can work with us or against us, but you can't ignore us. And what do you propose? Elder Corrin asked. Release me. Not because I've repaid my debt, but because keeping me makes the Empire look weak. It makes you look like bullies who can't be trusted. Earth sent a fleet here, not to attack, but to get back one of their own. If you start a conflict over me, how many other species will question whether they can trust you? The room was silent. Everyone knew he was right. The political cost of keeping Doyon was rising every day. Furthermore, Nari spoke up, I wish to make a statement. If my mother does not release Doyon, I will abdicate my position as princess. I will renounce my royal status and leave the Empire with him. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Queen Valora stood, shocked and angry. "Nari, you cannot be serious." "I am completely serious. You taught me that honor and tradition are the foundation of our civilization. But what honor is there in breaking your word? You promised to reduce his debt if he cured the plague." "He did. You should honor that promise." The council decided out of fear, just as Doyun said. "We are afraid of change, afraid of humans, afraid of admitting we might need help. But fear is not wisdom, Mother. Fear is weakness." The queen looked at her daughter for a long moment. Doyun could see the conflict in her eyes, love for her daughter fighting against pride and tradition. "What you ask," the queen said slowly, "is that I admit the Empire made a mistake, that we were wrong to keep him. I ask that you be brave enough to change course when it is right to do so," Nari replied. Admiral Somin's fleet arrived in orbit at that exact moment. The timing was perfect, intentional. The communication channels lit up with requests for status updates. Elder Corrin stood. "Your Majesty, the galaxy is watching. Our decision here will define how the Empire is viewed for generations. We can appear strong and fair or paranoid and tyrannical. Choose wisely." Queen Valora was silent for a long time. Then she closed her 3 eyes and seemed to shrink slightly, as if a great weight had been lifted. "I choose wisdom," she said quietly. "Human Doyen, your debt is fulfilled. You are free to leave. Admiral Somin's fleet may enter orbit without fear of conflict." Cheers erupted from the human delegation watching remotely. Even some of the Silthian council members looked relieved. But the queen wasn't finished. "However, I have one condition. You will return to the Silthian Empire twice per year as a formal cultural liaison, not as property, but as a partner. You will help us understand humanity, and humanity understand us. Do you accept?" It wasn't perfect, but it was freedom with purpose. "I accept," Doyun said. Nari hugged him, not caring who saw. The formality of the moment dissolved into genuine joy. Later, after the ceremonies and the political statements, Doyun stood with Nari on a balcony overlooking the landing pads. Earth's shuttle was waiting to take him to Admiral Somin's flagship. "You are coming with me, right?" he asked. "To Earth. For a visit. I cannot stay forever. I have responsibilities here, but yes, I want to see your world, your chaos." She smiled. "And then you will come back, twice per year. That gives us time." "Time for what?" "To see if a Silthian princess and a human hero can make something work." She kissed him again. "I believe we can. I have hope." "Hope," Doyen repeated, smiling. "You're learning." He boarded the shuttle, looking back one last time at the palace that had been his prison and his home. Princess Nari waved and he waved back. The shuttle lifted off, breaking through the atmosphere into space. Through the window, Doyen could see Admiral Somin's fleet, massive and powerful, a reminder that Earth would always fight for its own. His communicator beeped. It was Yuna. "Welcome back, little brother. I knew you could do it." "We did it, all of us together." "That's the human way," Yuna said. "Now come home. Everyone wants to meet the hero who changed an empire." The shuttle docked with the flagship. As Doyen stepped aboard, the crew saluted him. Admiral Somin, a sharp-eyed woman with gray hair, shook his hand firmly. "Good work, son. You made us proud." "Thank you, Admiral." She leaned closer. "Between you and me, we were terrified. Starting a war over one person would have been insane, but we couldn't leave you there." "I know. Thank you for coming." The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. During that time, Doyun rested, recovered, and processed everything that had happened. He had been gone for 8 months. It felt like a lifetime. When the ship finally entered Earth's solar system, Doyun pressed his face against the window like a child. The sun, his son, looked beautiful, and there, the small blue planet that had given birth to humanity. Home. They landed at the main spaceport to a crowd of thousands, news crews, government officials, and regular people who just wanted to see the man who had stood up to an empire. Yuna was at the front, tears streaming down her face. They hugged for a long time, not caring about the cameras. "I missed you so much," she said. "I missed you too." The next months were a blur. Interviews, ceremonies, speeches. The governments of Earth wanted to analyze everything he had learned. Scientists wanted to understand the plague cure. Regular people just wanted to hear his story. But through it all, he kept his promise. 6 months after his return, he went back to the Silthian Empire. Nari was waiting for him, and they spent 2 weeks together, teaching each other, learning, building something new. Human-Silthian cooperation programs started within a year. Humans brought their creativity and adaptability. Silthians brought their precision and technology. Together, they began solving problems neither could handle alone. And in the palace on the Silthian homeworld, a statue was erected. Not of Queen Valora or any ancient hero, but of a human security officer who had proved that courage and compassion could change the galaxy. 10 years later, Earth's position in the Galactic Coalition was stronger than ever. Humanity was no longer seen as reckless children, but as valuable partners whose unique perspective made everyone stronger. And Doyun, now an official ambassador, walked hand in hand with Princess Nari through the streets of both their worlds, a living symbol of what different people could build together. Sometimes the most logical thing was to be illogical. Sometimes the best answer was the one no one expected. And sometimes the most powerful force in the universe wasn't technology or weapons. It was hope.